Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I'm your Pakistan Studies teacher. In today's lecture, we are going to study about the reforms of Ayub Khan. We have already read about the regime of Ayub Khan and the imposition of martial law and also the causes of martial law. Now we are going to read about the reforms of Ayub Khan. So let's start our lecture. Ayub Khan introduced some reforms when he taken over the charge of the government. So he announced some reforms. Why he announced the reforms? Because he wanted the development and prosperity of the country. So he introduced these reforms. There were many reforms, but basically the two reforms which are very famous are agricultural reforms and economic reforms. Number one is agricultural reforms. As you already know that Pakistan is an agricultural country. Therefore, the government of Ayub Khan, after taking over, formed a commission on 31st October 1958, and this commission gave its report to the government for the solution of agricultural problems and its improvement in January 1959. The government acted upon at once, and the following reforms were imposed because the government knew that these points are very important. So the government at once imposed these points. There were famous 5 points for agricultural development. Number one, the government finished all the feuds. Number two, a limit of possession for any person is determined as 500 acres canal irrigated and 1000 acres raw irrigated land. In addition, the farmer can keep with him 150 acres for gardens. Number three, rights of the peasants were safeguarded. Forced labor from the tillers was strongly prohibited. Point number 4 was the area of land with the farmer beyond limit was taken into custody by the government and they were given in return the government bonds. Point number 5 was inland consolidation. The revolutionary steps were also taken. Small pieces of land were consolidated and made able for the modern cultivation. So these were famous 5 points which the government of Ayub Khan imposed at once. Although there were some defects in the land reforms of government, but for the time being the agricultural reforms brought improvement in the country. The peasants and the poor class rights were admitted. Farmers and peasants were given tube wells and tractors on easy loans. These steps were named by the Ayub Khan government as Green Revolution. So you can say that the agricultural reforms of Ayub Khan are also called Green Revolution. Now the next reforms which Ayub Khan introduced was the economic reforms. Economic reforms. Economically, Pakistan was also at the back foot at that time, so Ayub Khan took some initiatives for the economic development in Pakistan. And that is why in some circles the decade of 1960 was called the decade of development. For the step of new industries, the government adopted a comprehensive plan. Not only the dead industries or the closed industries were redeveloped, but new industries were installed also. During this period, the economic development can be estimated from the second 5-year developmental plan. As a result of reforms of Ayub Khan, the development in the country is as the following. Number 1, national income increased by 30%. Number 2, exports increased by 7% annually. Number 3, industrial sector progressed by more than 40%. And number 4, in the agricultural sector, development was more than 15%. During that period, the indigenous industries were insisted to use more local raw materials so that foreign exchange could be saved. So, the economic reforms of Ayub Khan's regime have a very important place in the history of Pakistan. It was that era or that regime in which a lot of developmental works have been done. If you see the different dams in Pakistan nowadays, it is due to that developmental projects of Ayub Khan regime. In this regard, Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation was also established in 1949. It was developed in 1949, but in the era of Ayub Khan, in order to make it more dynamic, 2 parts were made of it so that new conditions improve more. During that time, work was started on big dams, for example, Mangla Dam and Tarbela Dam, etc. Government took many initiatives and steps to develop the cottage industries so that in addition to the urban areas, the rural areas may not left behind in development race. You can see that other reforms like political reforms and social reforms were also initiated by the government of Ayub Khan, but these 2 reforms are very much needed details. So we will study these 2 reforms in our next lecture. Till then, take care and Allah Hafiz. Thank you.